Good evening, ladies and gents, this is Nerds the Human and welcome to this analysis video on Rome Remasted's latest patch. Now, this is a sizable patch here, attempting to fix a huge variety of the issues that came up upon release. I'll take you through some of the huge list of changes and cherry pick a few to investigate more closely. Along the way, I shall though bring up a few things that I still feel need sorting out. Let's begin with the modding then, and this patch has a big push on the modding potential. But unless you're making a mod yourself, then it probably won't impact you too much in the short term. But rest assured that there are plenty of toys here for the mods to play with, and in time this could prove a big step for new mods. For this section though, I'll probably just give us a quick summary. Number one, there's been a huge limit increase to things like the units, the map regions, and the resources. And it describes it here as being virtually unlimited, which is pretty darn exciting. However, I will just point out though that the anticipated faction increase to 31 hasn't yet happened to my knowledge. Nonetheless, a lot of the limits are now being lifted. Number two, reputation and relationship bonuses are now moddable, and this one is certainly intriguing, allowing a much more dynamic relationship between different factions. And mix it with this bottom one here, that you can now mod some of the AI personalities as well. Well, I think this is certainly going to help with some of the roleplay potential. Now, certainly you might want certain factions to play in a certain style, and I do recall, if you're interested, in Datafold that there is a file called Feral Deska AI Personality. It explains each of these different personalities of the factions. Presumably now there is far more scope to modify and basically create your own faction style. Finally, scripting, which in short is an awful lot more flexible now. There's a lot more control for the modders to create what they want in the scripts, which can sometimes be a little bit fiddly. So this should hopefully, well, between this and all the other things I've just mentioned, we'll hopefully see some great mods come together in the coming months. But let's now move on to the main game changes themselves. With modding complete then, let's move on to the user interface and the campaign UI, and I specifically like this first one here, renaming the settlements. Now this is something that I have a guide for the original Rome, but sadly that solution wasn't available for the remaster, so it was one of those things that upon release the original was better at than the remaster. Happily, this fixes that problem. Next we come to the improved assassination and sabotage mission flow. Now I've had a few gripes with this, and unfortunately I'm not really seeing those fixed so far. Let me take you through a quick example. My assassin here, right click, and I'm going to kill that diplomat. Absolutely fine. The problem is when I ask him to do a mission on the next turn. Right click on Ligatorix, and I can't confirm the button at all because it's not this turn. Contrast this with the spy. Well, he can go and spy on that diplomat, absolutely fine. And if I send him off on a extra turn mission over there, it's absolutely fine. No need to click confirm, and it's absolutely happy to do it. It's encouraging that they are trying to change some of the assassin flow, but it is irritating when this worked on the original and is a little bit fiddly on the remaster. That does still need a bit of work. If we scroll down near to the bottom, then you'll find one more that I do rather like. Alerts that require player input automatically open at the start of the turn. If I give you an example of this from my experience, I tend to find on the Rebels that I'd be offered a candidate for adoption pretty much every turn, but if I didn't click on it immediately, the man would just be dead. This was rather silly, and I'm glad that they fixed this nice and quick. Onto the battle UI then, and I'm just going to highlight these two at the top here. Not because I have a problem with them themselves, they're perfectly fine fixes as they are, but it's more problems that are similar and related, but really haven't been sorted out. We've just seen there it says it's upgraded the icons for weapons and armour, but there are still slingers with a slingshot icon. That is a little gripe, but something that really should be changed. And whilst we're on the battle UI, you can see here I'm going to regroup all of these lads. I put the slingers on the left, and it decides to reorder them when I put them together. Quite why it does that, I don't know. I can move that guy back to the front, and even when I ungroup, it's going to reorder them once again. Now with the creations at the front, it's a little bit bizarre. It says it fixed an issue where firing arc ranges wouldn't render on water. That's all well and good, but unfortunately the height is still not being factored in here. You can see these creations are in range of these lads even though they are out of the arc. Maybe it's a little bit tricky to render, maybe it would be too dynamic, I don't know. It's just a little bit of a small irritation really. Onto the audio then, which by and large is a selection of small little details here and there which have all been touched up, which is great. And I must say that the balance of the music is a lot better than it was when the game first came out. It was just really imbalanced. The music much too loud. It was bizarre. But yeah, that seems an awful lot better now, although there is still one little gripe I do have. Obviously the Rome music is absolutely fantastic, but I don't like how it continues when you pause. Maybe this is just a personal gripe of mine, but pausing should be a solemn moment of contemplation to consider the battle ahead. And when you want to unpause, you want the music to thunder back in, throw you back into the battle itself. And I just find, yeah, as it stands, I get slightly taken out of it when I pause. Onto the gameplay and visuals, and specifically the campaign section then, an SPQR can no longer change their capital from Rome. That's a funny little feature. Now, when I originally played the game, I would like to give away settlements to SPQR. I haven't done it on this, so I've not noticed this. However, I have had a little test, and I can confirm when you play as SPQR, you can still change it for yourself, which I suppose is probably for the best. Anyway, moving on, there's a few other little things in here, like the improved auto-merge function. Not really a problem there. There's another one here, fix an issue where selecting daily or monthly races would reset to yearly on end turn. Something like that would be very annoying indeed. However, I do really want to look at the bottom line here because it does give us a little bit more about the agents. Agents can no longer break sieges by pushing besieging armies out of the way, but this lad was still queued up to go into Segesta, but now is under siege by the ghouls. However, when I end turn, he is still going to make his way into the city. So whilst he hasn't pushed him out the way, there is still a problem with them entering under those conditions. Now, of course, as a spy, you might think that's fair enough, so I decided to retest this time with Assassin, Spy and Diplomat. So they're all now lined up to go into the city. As I end my turn, the ghouls are going to attack. Lo and behold, the ghouls have put us under siege, and you'll see the Assassin and the Diplomat have decided to reorganise their route, but the Spy hasn't. They definitely don't want to go through the unit anymore. However, they are going to wander around. And when the following turn begins, the Diplomat will still go all the way around and enter the city. Now, you might expect a Spy can sneak his way in. The Diplomat really shouldn't. This is, I'm afraid, a bit of an unintended bug that's still left over. A bit further down, we find the AI campaign and battle section, and whilst the campaign has plenty of interesting little bits, I'm going to move on from that straight onto battle, because this section here will deal with pathfinding. Obviously the UI and pathfinding were the two biggest gripes of most people playing the game, and this does try to address a lot of the pathfinding problems. There's quite a few things I like on here, to be honest, like the increased deployment rate of units onto walls. The AI definitely needs to do a bit more wall defending, increasing the rate at which soldiers enter towers, that sort of thing's very good. And there are lots more of these things. And so what I've done is I've had a little look at some of my major problems during the Rome Remastered series. Actually, one episode in particular I made almost all of my notes from. So we're going to have a look at some of those problems, and I'm going to have a little assessment of how well they've been fixed. The first thing is units leaving the city, which would often be a huge mess. This is before the patch here on my Rome Remastered series, and yes, it was causing me an awful lot of problems. However, once we've had the patch here, certainly from the fair few tests I've done, I haven't yet had this problem. You can see here they get themselves nicely galloped out of the city pretty darn efficiently, all things considered. The next problem with pathfinding was rams. Now, this is a specific problem where I was trying to slow down this ram attacking the city and decided to run out just as it gets to the gate. But all my men decided to run into the ram and very slowly find their way around the ram and to the unit in question. Now, this actually got worse as they tried to flee when they lost the battle and they ran back into the ram. It's, yeah, not all that good. So I did, of course, test this to see if this had improved. Here we are then back in the same sort of situation, ran right by the gate, and now I'm going to run out and cause them a few issues. Now, hopefully, we'll be able to attack these villagers here, but same issue pretty much as before. They can't find their way around the ram's too close to the wall, and sadly this problem is still here. Surely this can be fixed. Next, a section of clips from my Rome Remastered series where I kept on having issues laying out my units in city streets. This is a classic case of this game's pathfinding is just unbelievably annoying. It's not even so much the pathfinding in this particular case though, it's just being able to set things out in a city. Like, this grass used to be so much more workable, but alas not anymore. And whilst I suppose it can be more useful for bottling things up, honestly I don't really want that. I just want my... why can't I stand on this grass? Why does the grass not exist? So annoying. Anyway, we're going to get ourselves into... What are they doing? What are they doing? We're going to get ourselves into position on this plaza, one way or another. Although, yeah, it's almost impossible to fit these chariots on. It will take me about 10 minutes to set this up. A frequent problem I'm also finding on this is how often this is happening. It's a building. It's clearly a unit. Let me click on the unit. Just ridiculous. In classic fashion on the remasters, I can't actually click on this road at any point because this building has such a big random area around it. I can't actually click where I want to at any point. But what I'm trying to do is get the peasants near enough to waste their pilum. Here we are inside Rome then, and I found myself a similar kind of plaza to try and play around with. Heavy spearmen are doing a decent enough job actually of getting themselves spread out there. Just sort of test how much the buildings are hugging over. Actually, it's not too bad. It's working out with that building. Actually better than it seemed to be before. There's a bit of overhang over there though. But, okay, maybe not as bad as it used to be. Although it might just be me hoping for the best here. I can, certainly say if we start getting some of the cavalry over here, we're going to have a few issues. Now, I'm actually only on large scale, not huge here, or the extremes, so that would obviously cause us more problems. The cavalry not fitting at all. There's only 54 of them in this unit. I mean, I guess there's 2, but yeah, bit awkward, as you might well expect. Okay, so the other thing I really want to test is these little side paths here, and yeah, same issue really. That central road is the only bit that really seems to exist. I seem to have to get it as close to that as possible. That side path between, that dirt path between the building and the main road should exist. It shouldn't be so pernickety. But yeah, still finding those problems to be honest. Okay, let's go back to a plaza section here then, because the streets are a bit awkward. But on this plaza itself, is that dirt going to work? It's, no, you can see there, it's not really letting me drag. Okay, marginally better, but again, the overhang area there is just a bit too big and awkward for my liking, to be honest. Next up then is a little clip of hoplites, which were incredibly awful when the game released. I'm hoping that they're a little bit more solid now, so we'll start off with a little clip from my series and then we'll take it to the new patch. On the plus side, at least the equites are going to come in and take on the hoplites. We'll see how good terrible light cavalry do against them, and if my hoplites die, then I'll truly know that life is over at this point. And again, camera angles are... It's really hard just to turn around on the spot, I'm finding. Okay, hoplites, come on, seriously. You're on the plaza, you're against a unit of equites, you've taken on face forward, front on, and you're still losing to light cavalry. What is wrong with the unit balancing on this? Right now there's some javelins coming in, but seriously, it was just a unit of cav against some hoplites. Oh, this is depressing. On to the patch then, and this time much more like it. The horses are getting themselves slaughtered. The plaza does seem to have stunted their charge a little bit. Obviously we're at the back originally, but it should still influence it. This is much more like what you want to see. Light cav should not do a great job against a set of hoplites sitting on an elevated plaza. Simple as that. Well done. The final section then is the controls, and the key thing is this, being able to rebind some of the key orders. Now originally we couldn't change some of these, like select all for example, a really key one, and some people are left-handed and for them it's really important to be able to change some of these around. They often use the mouse in their left hand of course. So this was a big problem, particularly for people who want to play multiplayer and want to have some high action gameplay. So I'm glad that they've opened that up. And finally, stability down at the bottom here. Now, if you watched my series, you'll know that by episode 11 or 12, I was constantly having the game crash at end turns. I had to reload basically 2 episodes back and replay it just to try and get the game to run. Part of the whole point of Rome Remastered was that a lot of people couldn't run the original Rome anymore. It was a bit too much of an old game. Personally, I had no problems running Rome. So the last thing I want with a remaster is broken gameplay and constant crashes. So I haven't had any so far, but I guess in time we'll see if this rings true. Finally, I will take a quick look at some of my personal gripes, starting with the ambush. Now, I would love for ambushes to have the option to hide. There are several occasions where you simply want to hide your troops and scout rather than launch an attack. And whilst you can withdraw, this asserts that you've already blown your cover, and you often just get attacked immediately afterwards anyway. Now, this is something I emailed Feral about months ago, but alas, to no response. Secondly, it is quite hard to tell if your ambush is successful or not. Now, there is a tiny pop-up to inform you, but it is undoubtedly poor UI and simply worse than the original. And another worse than the original issue here is that I can't move the screen around. I might want to figure out exactly where this is on the map, but alas, the screen is stuck where it is, which means that I don't have the context I might want for this battle, which is, well, frustratingly limited. Next up is sally battles. Now, if you manage to draw this sally battle, then for some reason the AI can just decide to sally again. Now, this is not something the human player can do, so this does feel like it's rather wrong. Next up is the sunset lighting on custom battles, and just look at this beautiful sunset. The shading of the trees is beautifully angled, the city walls are lit up, and the city's in complete darkness. It's very strange, and someone who uses custom battles to toy with modding, it's nice to get a decent lighting effect, and while this started out well, it's looking like a bit of a mess still. And just to finish this off, a tiny thing. If I want to merge my units here, I press M and the pop-up in the corner arrives every time. Please get rid of that. And with that tiniest of gripes out the way, that probably suggests we should end it here for the day. Certainly, this patch is pretty encouraging. Not only that they are still doing a lot to try and fix the bugs, but also for the modding in the future. So that is certainly something I'm looking forward to. Obviously there are still a few things that need to be fixed here, and like we saw with the assassins at the start, while some little things are being fixed, there are still bugs in there, or certain things that need to be smoothed out. Nonetheless, I will leave us here for today. Do leave some comments below for any suggestions you have for fixing the game. We might well find that if the community talk about things enough, that change might happen. Homeworld had a brilliant release over 20 years ago, and the remaster was not quite what people wanted at the start, but people explained what was wrong about it, and in time it was greatly improved. Now the Homeworld remaster is excellent, so perhaps we can see a similar thing with the remastered to Rome Total War. But for now I will leave you. I'm Thomas, this is Tenez the Human, and this has been a little guide to the 2.2 patch update to Total War Rome Remastered. Thank you, and bye bye. They're all queuing up to fight them. These are truly the British rebels right here. War cry and charge at the dogs of war. Oh, they're routing again. What are you doing, my silly trumpets? They're actually taking on my reinforcements. Welcome to the Rebel Experience, ladies and gents.